Just wait for the finish to that nose cone closure. We'll have a bit of time again. We'll have about 20 minutes or a little over 21 from right now.
Hey guys,
until we really
welcome
start
back
re-entering
to another
Earth's
video
atmosphere.
about
We're
live stream.
expecting that entry
I
interface
am now live.
In about 21
but
minutes.
we are talking about
and then
NASA
right
time,
around that
SPACEX,
time, we'll also be looking for that blackout we've been talking about. We've
America.
had a little bit of what we call Radicom at this point, so you'll hear kind of some sporadic interruptions.
Now you guys are just going to listen, but I will be talking in and out. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat and I will answer all of them. If you put in hashtag ask random, and if you put in hashtag ask random, then I will answer all of your questions. Thank you, and let's listen in.
I've heard the call out
to
that the first
SPACEX.
set of hooks for nose cone closure are in motion. So this will complete in 2 sets. The first set is now in motion. So really good news to hear that. Everything looking good so far. Like I mentioned before, in the background, Dragon has inhibited the forward bulkhead Draco thrusters that we just used to complete that deorbit burn. This is to ensure that it's safe to latch that nose cone shut for reentry. Also, the vehicle has initiated the Nitrox Purge. Nitrox is simply a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen. It's what we breathe. And the nitrox that is being purged into the system is cooled. So allowing that cool air to circulate around the cabin, but also inside of Bob and Doug's suits will help to keep them cool and comfortable during re-entry, which will be coming up in about 20 minutes. We're currently tracking 23 minutes and 20 seconds until entry begins. So in case you're just joining us at this point, the nose cone has closed. The forward thrusters have been disabled, and we are latching the nose cone. Currently underway with the first set of hooks. The first of 2 sets.
Oh no, sorry, you guys couldn't hear me there. Hello, Zeus Weatherland Gaming, but today we are doing the NASA Time SpaceX Splashdown hashtag Land America. This live stream will be on my Random News Space Central channel if you want to listen to it.
CEO Elon Musk
guys,
and our President Gwen Shotwell
make
side
sure
by side at those center consoles.
To subscribe and
in
leave
addition
a like if you
those
haven't
two, the room
already.
is filled with
Also,
Dragon
share
operators
this
and mission
live
leaders
stream
who are
with
continuing
anybody
to monitor the
you know.
health and telemetry of the crew and the capsule.
Right there
Right now,
is
nose cone
Elon
closure
Musk.
is underway. The first of 2 sets of hook latching has completed.
we hope that this
And
goes well.
We just heard a
And
call out that the
SPACEX nose cone is secure for entry.
and now we are going to just listen in. Also, if you have any questions about space,
all right, great confirmation there. Back and forth from Mission Control here to Bob and Doug up in
and
Dragon
then that
Endeavor.
will catch my
That
attention,
Bob and Doug
and
have
then
also confirmed
ask
on their
the
displays
question,
that
and
the
then I will
nose
answer
cone has
the
closed
question
nominally,
on
and it is
this
secure for
live stream.
entry.
Hashtag Land America.
All right, so that nose cone close completion. A lot of tongue twisters with this right now. Coming with Dragon still flying over the South Pacific. It is on its way home. We're going to gradually start to see its altitude dip. Right now, already only 207 miles over the Earth's surface. It was at about 260 miles when it was still over on the other side of the Pacific Ocean off the southwestern coast of Australia when it
If
fired
you have
its
a
engines for that
question
deorbit burn.
for weather, I will
So
not be
its
doing
altitude going to
anything
continue
for
to
weather.
drop.
This is only
Once
for
it gets
space.
to
And if you
about
have any
100
questions
kilometers
for
in altitude,
space,
or about
do
62
hashtag
miles,
random space and
it's
then
going to
ask your
begin what's known
question,
as entry
and then I will
interface.
answer
And that's
your
when
question.
it really begins to start to feel the effects of the Earth's atmosphere. Will once again be experiencing lift and drag as it's no longer in that near vacuum environment in low Earth orbit.
So we're essentially stepping into the second half of entry. Dragon is now beginning to flush nitrox into the cabin and continuing to top it off in Bob and Doug's suits as well. Again, this is cool air essentially flowing through the cabin and the suits. This is what will allow them and the cabin itself to remain comfortable during reentry while those external temperatures reach 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. At this point in time, Dragon's orientation is such that the heat shield is pointing forward, if you will, leading the capsule toward the landing site. If you've been following along over the last couple days, you know that weather has been a big ticket item for us. The recovery team has been busy over the last week working to determine the selection of a landing site. In order to increase the options for space station departures, the team identified a total of 7 possible splashdown locations. In order to meet NASA's timeline requirements for crew recovery, these potential splashdown locations have to be close to a port, and they have to be close to medical facilities. So with all of that in mind, you add the ever-evolving weather conditions of Florida, but also that tropical storm Isaiah that was moving through. And it's easy to see how determining that landing site is quite a complex process. Since Dragon is capable of splashdown on either side of the Florida Panhandle, we in fact have 2 identical and fully equipped recovery vessels ready to support. One in the Gulf of Mexico, which is what we're utilizing today, Go Navigator, and the other located off the east coast of Florida, able to service landing sites in the Atlantic Ocean. That one is Go Searcher. Like I mentioned, today we'll be splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico, just off the coast of Pensacola, Florida. Go Navigator, that recovery ship I just mentioned, is in place and ready and waiting for Bob and Doug. The WB-57 plane, if it hasn't taken off already, I'm sure it will be very soon.
Yep, it's in the air.
Okay, great. That's what will provide our first views of Dragon during reentry. We'll get a thermal cam off of that airplane, allowing us to see the capsule as it is reentering the atmosphere. If you were tuned in for our Demo 1 broadcast, it was basically a big ball of light coming at us. We'll also have cameras on board the recovery vessel, so as Dragon gets closer and is deploying those parachutes, we will also be able to have hopefully some really clear footage of that all occurring as well.
All right, so Dragon's altitude continuing to dip. Right now about 174 miles over planet Earth. We're under 11 and a half minutes from where we expect to hit entry interface. So that's where Dragon will really start feeling the effects of being in a denser atmosphere. And then we are still tracking that blackout to come right around that same time. We are under 27 minutes away from Splashdown. So we are under 27 minutes away from Bob and Doug being on planet Earth for the first time since May 30th.
To kind of put everything in perspective, the Dragon capsule departed from the International Space Station several hours ago. But according to what Dan just said, it's essentially halfway home just based on altitude alone. So the International Space Station is about 250 miles above Earth's surface. I think right now it's between 250 and 300. I think right now it's about 263 miles above Earth's surface. So based on that telemetry that Dan just read off, is from an altitude standpoint, Dragon is halfway home, and yet that second half is going to be covered in the next 27-ish minutes while we wait for splashdown and recovery, versus the several hours that we've been covering since yesterday.
Yeah, and we will continue to see its speed drop as it's dropping out of orbit. It's starting to hit the atmosphere. It's starting to slow from the effects of that friction, generating the heat on the heat shield, and building up the plasma eventually around the spacecraft. Its speed's going to continue to drop. It's already below 17,000 miles an hour, and it'll drop to essentially a terminal velocity of about 350 miles an hour right as those drogue chutes deploy. And those are going to pop out when sensors on the Dragon spacecraft, both GPS and pressure sensors, tell the spacecraft it's at the right altitude, and then those will automatically deploy. Those drogues coming out of the top section of the spacecraft using two mortars, or pyrotechnics essentially, to deploy those to do the initial slowing and stabilizing of the Dragon capsule.
Yeah, then after that, the main parachutes will pop out and further decelerate it to about 119 miles per hour. And then that will continue to decelerate. And by the time that the capsule is splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico, it's only going 15, 16 miles per hour. So significant reduction in speed there over just the course of a couple minutes. That, of course, is a pretty comfortable speed. The way that the astronauts have described it previously with other...
Just saying, for my random news
of
weather
missions
service,
also
there will
landing
be
down,
a new video
doing
after this
land landings at about the
for
same rate.
the new
They said it
advisory
feels like
for
you're in
tropical
a
storm
minor fender bender.
ECAS.
Yeah, you're
As I
definitely
said,
running
ask
into
any
something.
questions
You'll
with
feel
hashtag
it, but,
random
they do a lot of work with the seats and the
or
restraints
random
with these
news
crew
space,
members, just to make sure.
and also ask any questions.
While it may be a fender bender, you
and
got more
ask
than a seatbelt.
really any
essentially
questions,
holding
and
you
I
in.
will
So
answer all of
they're
them.
very secure
But
in their
guys, make
suits
sure
and in
to
their
leave
seats,
like
and they're
and
going to stay in
subscribe.
there even
And
after
then
Dragon touches down. We'll still have communication with
This
Dragon.
is
Once
forecasted
they're in the
to
water, it'll stay
be
powered on. Probably most importantly, the air conditioner will
it's
continue to
supposed
work
to splash
while
down
they're in the capsule
at
in the now Gulf of Mexico,
2:48
and much warmer
p.m.
temperatures than
EST.
they've seen for the last
So
couple
you
of
guys
months.
will
And
just
we'll
be
still be able
watching
to talk
this,
to them from
and
here in
this is
Hawthorne,
from
and the recovery teams will be able to
SPACEX.
as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One of the things we might see them do, depending on sea states and everything after they touch down and the crew themselves, they'll still have a couple of demonstration tasks potentially to carry out. They have a satellite phone inside of the capsule that has its own satellite antenna integrated into Dragon, and they're able to use that independent of Dragon's communication system. So one thing we might hear them do is do a test call on that to the teams here in Hawthorne. We wouldn't be able to hear the call, but you would hear the go to do it over the Dragon to ground audio that we've been listening to this entire time. So still have a couple of demonstration steps, essentially, as, again, this is a test flight. This is the flight to really prove out Dragon systems, to bring crew members from Kennedy Space Center to the space station and return them safely to Earth. And so far, we have had a flawless ride downhill. We've completed the deorbit burn. Dragon is continuing to drop down. It's right now at about 132 miles over the Pacific Ocean. Pretty soon we're going to see its ground track cross over Central America, out over the Gulf, culminating in that splashdown in the Gulf just off the coast of Pensacola.
Dragon SPACEX for entry brief.
Go ahead.
Okay, Doug, we have no update to timing because the burn went great and your vehicle is still looking really good for entry. No health issues at this time.
Okay, Dragon copies, thank you.
In addition, the recovery team is go and the weather is still great. Winds are about 2 knots and waves about 1 foot. From the ship, they're reporting very calm.
That is all good. That everything is working well.
Copy, good weather at the landing area. Thank you.
Okay, and last piece is that we do expect some additional RADI-COM during entry prep 2 due to vehicle attitude. So if you can get us your entry check report a little bit prior to entry prep 2, we'd appreciate it.
Copy, we'll go.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
So there we just had a bit of a briefing between Mission Control and Bob and Doug up in Crew Endeavor, just confirming with them that the deorbit burn was great and that the timing on their pads doesn't need to be updated. We are able to upload new trajectory calculations, including times that remain live depending on how the burn goes. And at this point in time, those don't need to be updated. It is important that they do remain accurate because Bob and Doug, their primary mission right now is to continue to monitor the vehicle status and telemetry and data being presented to them on their touchscreen displays in front of them. And so during the more dynamic events, they certainly want to be aware when things like parachute deploy will be happening and when splashdown is expected. So making sure that the timeline of events, the sequencing is accurate is certainly important in order for them to stay aware and updated of upcoming events.
Just another quick position check. Dragon still out over the Central Pacific, down to about 108 miles in altitude. We're expecting that entry interface to come up in the next 4 minutes or so. Again, at that point, Dragon should be at an altitude of right around 62 statute miles, or about 100 kilometers. And that's when it really starts to feel the effects of the atmosphere. It starts to experience the lift and drag and other atmospheric effects it's been free from while flying in the near vacuum of low Earth orbit. So continuing to drop in altitude, still looking for an on-time splashdown. Should just be about 19 minutes from now. And just a reminder, we do have that blackout period coming. So as they continue to dip in the Earth's atmosphere and get lower and lower, the atmosphere gets thicker and thicker and is going to generate more and more heat, eventually heating up the outside of Dragon to 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. And as it hits that peak heating, it'll also be forming a plasma around the spacecraft. So we do expect to lose comm for about 6 minutes.
SpaceX Dragon crew entry preps are complete.
SpaceX copies, entry prep complete. Thank you.
The call from Spacecraft Commander Doug Hurley, entry preps are complete. So they are on board, they are monitoring, they are ready to come home.
Yeah, and as of right now, entry prep should have also included final configuration of their flight suits. So we had a question from our social media earlier if the visors will be up or down. Those visors should be down at this point as part of that entry prep check. In that last briefing, we also heard that the weather is looking good. In a previous report, the phrasing was, "It looks like glass." And that is certainly ideal for a water splashdown. That being said, the recovery timeline, Bob and Doug should be out of the capsule within an hour after splashing down. So good to hear that the weather is good. We saw blue skies and a couple of white fluffy clouds out there in the Gulf of Mexico as we got views from our recovery vessel Go Navigator. But glad to hear that conditions are sustaining and that winds also are looking really good, around 2.5 miles per hour.
Let me just say one thing real quick.
Hardly anything at all.
This is the
Really couldn't
first
ask for better
ever
conditions for a
real
splashdown day.
splashdown since
we kind of threaded the needle once
1976.
again, almost like we did on
Well,
launch with the weather
Actually,
today.
let's change that up.
Your
Actually,
upper limits for wind were about 10 miles an hour, so we're well below that threshold for a splashdown
today. The reason
today.
being why it was 1976 is because
Dragon
they actually
coming
went
up on 82 miles in altitude, continuing
they were
to dip
supposed to
down.
land in
We're expecting
Kazakhstan,
that entry
but they
interface to start
accidentally
pretty
landed
soon,
in a
where
lake
the vehicle
in
itself's
Kazakhstan.
really going to start heating up.
And
It's going to
most of
continue to
the
use its Draco thrusters
landings
to
are
maintain
now
its attitude as it continues through
land
the Earth's
and not
atmosphere.
water.
And
So
we'll have
this
that
is
calm
the first
blackout
one
coming up in
since
just a couple of minutes as well.
1976. Let me do something real quick.
Just heard the cabin purge has started again. This is when they're going to flush the cabin of Dragon with cooled air. They're also going to do a suit
So that
purge.
was
Running cooled
44
nitrox
years
through the
ago
suits for Bob and Doug
that
just to
we
keep things
have the
at a
first
comfortable
ever
temperature for
waddled
them as the capsule
splashdown
goes
landing.
through the re-entry
So
and starts
we
to heat
hope
up.
that this works really well. The landing site is out of Pensacola, and then the next one is during Panama City. If the Pensacola doesn't work and or the Panama City doesn't work, then they would have to think of another one.
So like we said, we are anticipating
area.
a brief blackout
Thank you.
period where we're unable to communicate with the capsule. That's we're expecting that to start in exactly 3 minutes. That will last for 6 minutes total, and during that time, we will be unable to command the vehicle or receive telemetry. That being said, Dragon is designed to be fully autonomous, so it's driving itself anyway. So Bob and Doug will stay fastened in their seats. Like I said, that anticipated loss of signal, or as you'll hear it called LOS, is anticipated to last for just 6 minutes. During that blackout period, the capsule will encounter what's known as entry interface. This is when the capsule is now really in the Earth's atmosphere and beginning to be subject to aerodynamic forces. This is also when a lot of that friction will begin to build up and raise the external temperatures.
Dragon SpaceX, we show 2 minutes until predicted calm blackout. We will see you on the other side at 1842.
Dragon copies 1842. We'll talk to you then.
So there's that heads up communication
I am back.
from Mission Control to Dragon
so in
Endeavor,
about an hour, they won't be able to
blackout.
be seeing Dragon Endeavor.
Like I was saying, during the blackout, the Dragon capsule will be going through entry interface, where it is encountering
just join my
aerodynamic
group, please,
forces,
to help clean the
really
ocean
starting to build up
and
the external
just
temperature
help it out.
as it, and that external
that would
temperature will reach about 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit.
So just go help
However,
it out.
the interior of the cabin is environmentally cool, so Bob and Doug should remain comfortable during their descent.
So please go and check that out.
There will be
and join
cool
the
air
group.
flowing not only through the cabin itself, but also through their suits.
Thank you. Also, ask any
The suits have sensors on them that are able to detect the temperature inside that suit, and once that sensor reads that it has reached the maximum temperature threshold, it'll flush the suit with some cool air and really circulate and cool it down.
All right, well, we are right around that estimated blackout time. As we heard the call, we'll see them on the other side, expected to regain that communication at about 42 minutes after the hour. So for these next 6 minutes, they're already less than 60 miles in altitude. And this is when the capsule is really heating up during that reentry, reaching temperatures of around 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. As again, you're essentially hitting the atmosphere at more than 17,000 miles an hour, and the friction building up that plasma around the spacecraft. And that's what's going to prevent us from talking to Bob and Doug or getting data back from the spacecraft for the next 6 minutes. Its flight computers are in control, though. It's going to continue to maintain its appropriate trajectory and attitude, having attitude determination devices on board the capsule, not reliant on communications with satellites. And it's going to continue dragging down the correct path for this splashdown off the coast of Pensacola. So we are in that blackout period. We're going to continue to stand by until we get them on the other side. All right, and just about 2 minutes after we get acquisition of signal, AOS, back with Dragon, we're going to be looking for those parachutes, and we should hopefully be getting some views from a couple of our assets out at the landing zone, including our WB-57 high-altitude research plane, which is going to be relying on Dragon's telemetry to actually lock onto it in the sky and give us an infrared view of the capsule during the final stages of reentry. We're going to be looking for the drogue deploys at about 44 minutes after the hour. Those will be 2 drogue shoots that are going to come out when the vehicle is still moving at about 350 miles an hour. It'll be at an altitude of about 18,000 feet. They'll come out and do some initial slowing and stabilization of the spacecraft, and then less than a minute later, they'll detach, and the 4 main parachutes will deploy. You'll see them come out and look kind of closed up initially, and then they'll do what's known as reefing, opening up in really 2 different stages just to minimize the immediate loads on the parachutes themselves. Those main parachutes will come out at an altitude of about 6,500 feet, with Dragon already slowed down to 119 miles an hour, and they'll do the rest of the slowing the whole way down until we splash down in the Gulf of Mexico. We should be 10 minutes away from splashdown.
So right now we're getting our cameras on the WB-57 airplane, which is in the area, getting those cameras ready to give us our first glimpse.
Tropical Storm Hagupit has now formed, same as Tropical Storm Sinlaku.
We should still have about 3 minutes left, a little less than 3 minutes, until we anticipate reacquiring our signal and our connection with Bob and Doug in the Dragon spacecraft.
If you're just tuning in, we are in a blackout period that we were expecting. This blackout period will last a total of 6 minutes, and we're about halfway through there now. At the moment, Dragon is re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, and due to the plasma building up on the exterior of the vehicle, we're unable to communicate or send commands, but Dragon is fully autonomous. It is steering itself. And right now, Bob and Doug are flying home.
Dragon SpaceX comm check.
So we're still inside that anticipated blackout window. It does look like we are getting maybe some sporadic data starting to peek through. This is why you heard that communications check with the spacecraft.
We are
Dragon
now supposed
SpaceX
to have
comm check.
We are now forecasted to have the
Cover
splash.
loud and clear. We're about 3.9 G.
Copy. We've got you 5x5 as well, Doug. Looking good, and you can expect an automated chute deployment.
Copy. Automated chute deployment.
All right, really good news there. We have come out of the blackout period,
Yeah,
and we
really
have
good news.
reestablished connection with Dragon Endeavour.
Sorry about that.
With NASA astronauts Bob Behnken
but
and Doug Hurley
we
on
have
board.
around 6 minutes and 30 seconds till the splashdown is forecasted, which is around
We were able
2:48
to reacquire that communication a little bit earlier than
EST, as I
expected.
already said.
And now we are just waiting. We should just be about 2.5 minutes away from that initial drogue chute deploy.
The general area for
2 minutes and 26 seconds.
splashdown is
AGPS has converged.
is south of Panama City and
You may
or
have heard earlier that Bob
Pensacola.
and Doug are
The
currently
first one is in
experiencing 3.5
Pensacola,
Gs.
and then possibly
Not too bad. That's about what they pulled during the ascent phase.
and then possibly whenever if that doesn't work, then we will be
Just like a
going
mild
on to
roller
Panama
coaster.
City, but we don't know where we will go after Panama City. Thank you.
So the vehicle is now over the Gulf of Mexico. It is approaching the landing zone off the coast of Florida near Pensacola, and there we have our first shot.
There it is. The first view from the WB-57 airplane. It is dipping in and out a little bit. This is going to be an infrared camera showing us Dragon re-entering. We have that comm back with Bob and Doug. You heard AGPS is converging. Dragon has 3 GPS units that it uses actually in the parachute deployment process as it helps, along with the pressure sensors, really give a solid altitude to the flight computers on when these are supposed to deploy. We're standing by for the drogue chute deployments. We should be just under 5 minutes away from splashdown.
Passing 15 kilometers, brace for drogue window.
Copy, we're braced.
Just about 14 kilometers in altitude, 8.4 miles, continuing to descend.
There on your screen, we have a shot of the capsule as it is preparing to deploy those initial parachutes, the drogue parachutes. Again, these parachutes help slow the vehicle down even further and help stabilize in preparation for main chute deployment. Right about now, the capsule is going about 400 miles per hour, decelerating quickly.
And standing by for drogue deploys.
Visual, 2 drogues out.
There on your screen, we have visual confirmation of those 2 drogue deployments.
Copy, 2 drogue.
All right, so 2 of 2, the drogues now out. They're going to do their slowing and stabilizing of the Dragon spacecraft. They should be detaching in just a few moments, and then we'll see 4 parachutes, the main parachutes deployed. Dragon under drogues.
Okay, guys, I am now
Drogue
doing
descent rate
you
nominal.
could say real live commentary now. Can you hear me at this
The
moment?
expected descent rate, the
This
expected
is
velocity
just a
under the
test.
drogues
The
nominal.
test.
We're right at around
Yes, you can hear
150
me.
miles
Good.
an hour and already dropping.
Okay.
You can see the drogues now detach.
And there we have confirmation
So we have
of
all the
deployment of the 4
parachutes.
main parachutes.
Yay. Deployment of the 4
We are
main
visual on
parachutes.
4
Okay.
shoots out.
We are visual.
Okay, good.
4 main
Okay.
parachutes deployed.
Okay, all 4 main parachutes are deployed. Of course, there's probably some backup ones just in case if those 4 don't work to slow it down quickly enough.
So at this point, the main parachutes have deployed. They are inflating, as you can see there on your screen, continuing to slow Dragon down significantly. We are anticipating splashdown in just under 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
And we've already slowed the vehicle down to about 16 miles an hour. It's already less than a kilometer in altitude.
Also, hello, FSVIC News. Saying we are almost
Main chute
there.
descent rate nominal, passing through 700 meters.
And yeah.
So at this point, Dragon has saved all propulsion systems on
600
board.
meters.
600 meters.
600 meters still.
And we're 600 meters above the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, y'all, it's getting closer and closer.
Should be approximately a minute 30 from splashdown.
A minute 32.
Mission control team here in Hawthorne has reported the precise landing coordinates to the recovery team. They are standing by, ready to go get our space dads.
100 meters.
Oh, it's about to do it. Just saying one thing. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new.
Just passed about 300 meters. 1 minute till splashdown.
But y'all, we're almost there. Space dads are gonna do it.
200 meters. We are braced for splashdown.
Copy, brace for splashdown.
So there we heard Bob and Doug reporting that they are bracing for a splashdown. We should be able to see the Gulf of Mexico here in the shot just momentarily, as we're now just about 20 meters off the ocean.
Splashdown.
As you can see on your screen, we have visual confirmation for splashdown.
Splashdown at 2:48:10. Splashdown at 2:48:10.
We see splashdown and mains cut.
Dragon Endeavour has returned home. NASA astronauts Bob and Doug.
On behalf of the SpaceX and NASA teams, welcome back to Planet Earth.
Amazing.
Thanks for flying SpaceX.
2:48:10.
It's truly our honor and privilege to fly in flight of the Crew Dragon and Endeavour.
It has now splashed down. That is amazing. That's amazing that it has now happened.
And we're into section of
it's
800.
It's like a little
Thanks for those words,
buoy.
Doug. And we copy that you are into 4.800.
Okay, so
great news all around there. Our space dads
so
are
as you
back
see
on
right
Earth
there,
after a 19-hour return
there's actually
journey
a few
from
boats
space.
coming
Dragon
in
Endeavour has
and
laid
helping them.
splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. Just
There's
off the
actually
coast of
supposed to be
Pensacola,
a
Florida. And on your
what is
screen
it called?
there, you can see our two fast boats.
There's actually
and they
supposed
are indeed
to
fast, racing out to greet Dragon Endeavour.
There actually
as,
is supposed
it sits there.
they're supposed to be on.
Oh, there we can see a view inside the capsule.
It's supposed
Bob
to
and Doug
be
looking
on
good.
stretchers
Although the communication
and
was a little
supposed
choppy,
to bring
we
on
did
over
hear
to the hospital
Endeavour
for
and 3.1
about 1 day,
reassure
so they can
Table
get used
1.
to the real Earth environment and not the space where they were kind of
for,
flying around,
Step
where they have to
3.1,
now
stable
walk
1. Good
instead
news.
of flying.
Stable 1, essentially.
So-
They're upright in the water.
Yeah.
Stable 2.
Well, this is amazing.
Also, another
At
potential where it could be
2:48:10,
on
we
its
now
side or
have
even upside down,
Splashdown.
but Dragon does have a
Yay.
water ballast system to keep it upright, where it's able to
So-
essentially pump seawater into bladders in the service section of the capsule. But
As
they're
at
upright. We already see the
2:48:10,
fast boats
It has
approaching.
now splashed down
They
and
touched down.
Yeah, you are
came
true.
Right on time. At
there has been history now.
11:48 a.m. Pacific.
2:48:10.
1848
Also,
UTC. Bob and Doug
the
now in the water.
difference
and the recovery ops,
between
they've already
from
begun.
you guys
we already see
typing
the
into
fast
me,
boats starting
it's
to move
about,
in.
like,
We're still
a
maintaining
minute.
that good
So
communication
if I
back,
don't
with
answer
Bob
your
and Doug and the
question or
team here
anything
in
like that
Hawthorne,
within a minute
pretty soon we
or
should be
within
getting
like
the go
immediately,
for them to move
I'm
in,
sorry.
begin their hypergol sniffs.
But 2:48:10,
begin
we
wrangling
now
up
have
those
a
parachutes. So we can
splashdown.
see Bob and
Woohoo!
Doug inside the
Okay,
capsule.
that's amazing.
Back on planet Earth.
That is
Yeah, those fast boats will be moving in to do a couple of
Doug,
things.
and that
They'll be
is
performing what's known as
I
a
believe.
sniffer test. That's essentially to ensure that
which
the
is
air
amazing
around
that
the vehicle
everything has
doesn't have
now
any toxic
worked.
fumes from the hyperbolic propellants on board. So once we get the all clear from there, the water recovery lead will give the go for approach, and that's when the first fast boat will actually approach the capsule. Hopefully give a little wave to Bob and Doug through the window. And one of the team members will actually climb on top of Crew Dragon and begin to place the rigging equipment necessary to hoist Dragon out of the water.
Hoist.
Oh, still getting a view from the WB, the airplane flying overhead. It gave us those great views. Really our first views of Bob and Doug re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
Well, that isn't a replay. I
You
thought
can see
it
the
was
4 parachutes
down
in the water. We heard those were cut automatically, as expected by Dragon. So for now, the crew just standing by. Again, they're going to stay in their suits, in their seats.
In history.
We're waiting for
and
all these initial
COVID
checks.
is history.
Dragon,
Really.
SPACEX, com check.
But we don't really talk about that on this channel.
Loud and clear, hello.
Loud and clear as well. Just
yeah.
wanted to verify a quick comm reconfiguration. Thank you.
So essentially what just happened there is they reconfigured.
And Solo, if you can just relay status of the fast boats.
It's definitely lagging out one. They all
appreciate
they were in the waddle, so
You
of
bet,
course there might
absolutely,
be
Doug.
some
We'll
cords down in the waddle, which might not
So what just
travel
happened
as
there, you
quickly
heard
enough.
comms
as
reconfiguration.
was.
That's essentially looping Bob and Doug's communication into the into the recovery team, so that if not, they can hear feedback from Bob and Doug directly as well. Now, we talked a little bit about
SpaceX Endeavor. You can let Ben and James know we're doing pretty good so far.
Okay, we'll let the flight docs know that you're feeling good so far. Thanks for that update.
really good news there to hear that they're feeling good, and they can let the flight surgeons know that all is well inside Dragon Endeavor.
They aren't really sick, you could say.
All right, and it sounds like we do have one of our folks that's on location there with the recovery forces, NASA's Brandy Dean. She's joining us by satellite phone. Brandy, if you can hear me, I mean, what is it like right there in the water? What was it like to watch
Dragon? We're
watch them splash down
for the test objective. So stand by at the console once we get it up and operating.
Okay, SpaceX copies. We'll be ready for that in just a couple minutes. We should have the go for you in just a moment. Please stand by.
This is all really good news. As you see,
I can hear you, but they're good.
As you see, right there is where the crew demo 2 is, and over there is the boats. And it's extremely far. The reason being why it's shaking is because it's really far out, so they had to zoom in, and any slight movement is one shake of that. So there's actually somebody recording, or it's just the winds. It's probably more likely somebody that is recording all of this and sending all of this on and over there
in the center of your screen.
Space
Dragon capsule, waiting for the fast boats to approach.
That's probably the most likely thing
rigging
that
process.
is happening.
There on
the
the left-hand
moment.
side of your screen, we can see that second fast boat come into view.
Dragon, SpaceX, we are go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside in just under a minute.
Dragon copies. Thank you.
All right, so they're starting to move in.
Everything's going well.
First boat's going to go in, sniff around the capsule for any traces of hypergalls. The second one's going to start rounding up the parachutes, which we're getting some really cool views from the WV-57 still flying overhead. Looking down, you can see the parachutes in the water, and the second boat start to gather them up.
Okay.
We'll try one more time real quick. We have NASA's Brandy Dean out with the recovery forces. Brandy, if you can hear me, what was it like to watch this dragon come down under parachutes?
I think we have to end this here. But 2:48:10, there was a splashdown.
It was such beautiful sight. It was a gorgeous day. The water is calm. Really
Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever I create another video.
We were able to find it early